What red-eyed creatures attacked a young couple on a getaway trip? Would you ever consider sound bathing? Did a British pilot catch an unidentified flying object on camera over California? Today, we test the believability of the Mojave Incident.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. This is the last episode of 2023.
Ooh, it is, yeah.
So I hope if you celebrated it, I hope you had a nice Christmas. We're in the middle of holidays. Like we passed Thanksgiving, we passed Christmas, Hanukkah, and now it's like New Year's. And then it's shit until the weather gets nice, in my opinion.
I have a vacation coming up.
But that's not a holiday.
In my head, it is.
Okay. All right. Everyone celebrate Charlie going to Disney Week.
Yay.
How do we celebrate, Charlie? What do you want us to do?
Wear. I want everyone to wear Mickey ears.
There's a lot of those in my house. That's perfectly fine.
You got it, man.
Also, just want to announce this since it's our last episode of the year. If you've heard of and have been interested in our enamel pin, our exclusive enamel pin, our not tier exclusive Patreon enamel pin. This is the home stretch. Once we're January 24, we're on to a new pin, and the previous one's retired. We're setting off.
And you missed the first pin.
You were sending it off into the field. It's
Bummer.
like it's with your pet rabbit that ran away.
I'm getting very much of my men vibes from that. I'm not saying we're going to shoot it in the back of the head, but
Lenny. So I actually got creeped out reading about this encounter.
Always a good sign.
Like it was late. Like it's late. You know, it's like 2 a.m.
Still
so it's
a good
like
sign.
You know, there's nothing good happening at 2 a.m. And it's like reading about it and everything. It's just like you get that little tinge, you know, in your spine, and then you know you walk around. You got to go pee before you go to bed, and you walk around your house, and you're like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, But I'm excited. I'm excited to get into this. I'm excited to get your
Pick
thoughts.
Pick up a cat, just carry it with you.
It's like a shield
in front of you. Yeah.
I feel like that'd be more dangerous for me than the spirit, picking up a cat like that, using it as a shield. But without further ado, let's get into the Mojave Incident. So how familiar are you with this?
Not very. I'm vaguely familiar. I've heard of it in passing. So I know the name.
Have you been to the Mojave Desert?
No.
I didn't even to California. I just didn't know. It's like between Vegas and LA.
I have been to like a park or anything. I've driven through it.
Yeah, I would love. It's not right there. It's nearby. It's one of my goals to go to Joshua Tree.
Yeah, I knew.
I really want to go to Joshua Tree.
Seems hot. Seems hot to me.
But you want to go somewhere hot.
That's too hot. That's too hot.
It's what? You want to go to
warm.
LA?
Yeah.
You said you would live in LA.
I would.
This is LA.
Not the desert part. The beach part.
So you need aqua.
I need that beach breeze. That's all I'm saying.
So this story starts in October of 1989, and we're dealing with married couple Steve and Dawn Hess.
Hess.
That
was my dad's very good friend's name is Hess.
First name, last name?
Last name.
Steve?
No.
He had a friend named Steve.
It's Steve, not Hess, though.
Okay.
It's David Hess.
Okay.
To put it out there, I'm sure he'll never hear this, but...
So Steve and Dawn, they decided that they wanted to spend some quality time together, so why not go on a trip, right? Have a good time.
Yeah.
Get out and about.
Steve and Donna?
Steve and Dawn.
Steve and Dawn. Gotcha.
Dawn and Steve. Steve and Dawn Hess.
All right. I'm locked in.
And they're like, let's go to the desert. The Mojave Desert. Let's do it. I don't know where they're originally from. I'm assuming they're not.
Is it Joshua Tree?
Joshua Tree is south of the Mojave Desert.
Okay.
The like if you think of LA, like I could be wrong. I'm trying to mentally think of this. The Joshua Tree, I feel like, is just kind of east, like maybe northeast a little bit of LA, and then the Mojave Desert is more. It's like between Vegas and LA. Mojave Desert's like in the middle, kind of.
Okay.
That's like just generally where we're at here. It's also near the Sierra Nevada mountains. So, you know, Penelope's lurking around.
Yes.
That's where she goes on vacations too. So the couple want to enjoy this relaxing getaway from their children. They got children, and their grandparents are watching the children. And they're like, you young parents, go out and have fun. Go to the desert. Get that quiet time. So the plan was to drive west, hit up some gambling, have a little bit of fun, and then go camping under the stars, which to me actually sounds like a good time.
Sounds pretty nice. I lose way too much money and be in a bad mood.
That's not the type of gambling I like to do. I like to do the sports gambling. But I like the idea of it. And the camping under the stars sounds like an amazing time. It's also like the perfect setup to a horror film. Like it's that subgenre of like the road trip, which I'm really into. Anyway, so they arrive at this camping area, and it was supposed to be pretty chill and pretty remote. But they were a little bummed to find out that it was really packed, like super packed, loud, people everywhere. And they're like, oh, this sucks. This isn't what we wanted. We want it to be almost like a romantic getaway, like an Us thing, you know?
Yeah.
You can't enjoy looking at the stars when you got people throwing can jam frisbees around, hitting you in the back of the head.
No, that's a counterintuitive.
Yes. So they're like, okay, this is impeding on our romantic getaway vibes. So they said, F it. And we're going to drive off the beaten path to an area that's a little bit more secluded.
There's too much Dave Matthews Band around.
Well, in the 80s, I don't think that happened yet.
Gotcha.
I don't think that happened yet. That was 91. So the area that they ended up going to was between Tabletop Mountain and the Woods Mountain, which, by the way, Tabletop is like this plateau thing.
Almost like a table.
Yes. I feel like if you saw it, it feels like it encapsulates like California desert. It looks awesome.
What's the name of that?
I don't know what you
Plateau.
That's what I said.
You did say that.
I did say plateau.
I'm locked in.
I'm surprised you were able to find that word. So this is all areas that I'd like to go to. Mojave Desert sounds dope. Joshua Tree sounds awesome. This mountain sounds awesome. So they're off on their own in the desert with like this awesome backdrop of this tabletop mountain thing, which looks awesome.
One could call it a plateau.
You could. So they get their wish. They're isolated, and they start a fire. They cook up a little dinner. I believe it was steaks. From what I've read, I believe it was steaks. And they're sitting back, and they're looking up at the stars, and it is like millions of diamonds. It's beautiful. Beautiful night sky. They're having a good time. But as Steve starts cleaning up their meals, he noticed something strange. There was a tiny ball of light that was moving over Tabletop Mountain. Now, this was something that could obviously be explained away, like a plane, satellite, something like that. But he remembered that just the visual of this ball of light immediately gave him this unsettling and uneasy feeling in his stomach. And for some reason, he became completely enamored by this gliding light, which to him looked like a singular star moving in about a sea of other stars. He almost found himself in a trance watching it, and he wasn't snapped out of it until Dawn called out to him. So in that moment, he shook his head, regained his composure, and tried to show it to Dawn, tried to redirect her attention to this light, but when he looked back, it was gone. So he still felt uneasy about the whole thing, but he did his best to shake it off. Because after all, it was a romantic getaway, it was a relaxing trip. It was kind of built up for months, so he wanted to remain that way. Didn't want to freak her out. Didn't want to really bring it up.
It's like that gif for the meme where Leonardo DiCaprio's like points.
Oh, well, that's supposed to be like that's a me thing.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're right.
But if he was an alien, then yes. So they cleaned up dinner. They poured some wine. They pulled out their chairs, and they decided to take in all the sights and do some more stargazing. Sounds amazing. And they're pointing at the constellations, because apparently they knew the constellations and the occasional shooting star. But then they noticed that there was a particularly bright star that seemed out of place. Somehow, it seemed to call attention to itself. Then, it very clearly separated from the other stars in the sky once it started moving. And then, it almost started duplicating itself. And then it duplicated again. Eventually, the couple counted 9 lights in total, which made like an M formation as it glided across the sky. Dawn and Steve were stunned, but their initial thought to rationalize what they were witnessing was this thought that, oh, okay, there's this nearby airbase, the Knowles, if that's how you say it, N-U-L-L-E-S, Knowles Air Base. This is just a fleet from that air base. They're practicing their nighttime maneuvers, M for mighty
America.
For America. Yes.
They're in danger.
But then shortly after that, these small red lights descended from the larger white ones and began silently gliding towards the desert below, blinking and pulsating as they lowered. It was then that they noticed something else strange. All of the nighttime sounds of the desert had completely ceased. It was like a veil of silence had descended upon them and swallowed them whole. They weren't able to dwell on this too long, though, because within a few moments the red lights had approached them. They circled Dawn and Steve and reconfigured into different formations, with their flashing red lights intensifying. At this point, Dawn began to panic, which is incredibly reasonable. Every impulse in her body told her to run away as fast as she could, but she was also frozen with fear. The lights pulsated faster and faster until suddenly they completely went out. So at this point, all these lights that they were adjusting to were gone, and they were just surrounded in pitch black, and it was taking time for their eyes to adjust. With the lights out, though, Dawn and Steve's other senses were heightened, and they heard a noise in the distance. Something was moving around them, but it felt off, like something unnaturally scurrying around them. Then they heard the noise again, but in a different direction. And this made it clear to the couple. Whatever was out there, there was more than one. Breaking out of their trance, Steve tried his best to move past his crippling fear, and he grabbed Dawn, and they dashed back into their camper. Steve grabbed his hunting rifle. He wasn't thinking properly, and there was no way for him to process what was really happening, but he knew that they were in danger, and he felt like they were being targeted, maybe even hunted. Cautiously, Steve peered off into the distance, holding his rifle tight. He could see what looked like glowing red eyes circling them. He gritted his teeth and felt sweat pouring down his face. At one point, something jumped onto the hood of the camper and it darted off in the distance. He was about to take a shot at one of the red-eyed shadow entities, but Dawn insisted that he didn't. She told him that she had a really strong feeling that it would be a terrible idea to shoot at them. She claimed that this feeling wasn't her own, though, and it's possible that deep down she wished for him to shoot, but this thought about not shooting at them was actually being projected into Dawn's mind. Not sure what to make of anything, Steve slowly lowered his rifle, and they just simply stared off into the darkness. The couple can only assume that this increased the creature's confidence, because as soon as Steve lowered his rifle, they got closer and closer to the couple and the camper. It was then that Steve and Dawn realized that these were no wild animals. They were nothing like anything the couple had ever seen in their wildest imaginations. They were small, red-eyed, gremlin-looking creatures. As if Steve and Dawn weren't already petrified out of their minds, this realization seemed to push them even further into a nightmare of terror. The creatures seemed to sense this too, as they grew bolder and bolder, getting close enough to jump on the camper and bang on its side. They could faintly hear some type of gibberish alien language that they couldn't decipher. And while this was happening, 9 very tall, thin, and translucent beings with large black eyes seemed to appear out of nowhere in the darkness and approach the couple. The closer that these tall entities got, the more visions and thoughts were forced into the couple's minds. It was hard for them to perfectly explain their visions and the words that were circling their head because it was all happening so fast. At the same time, a really large, bright object descended from the sky and hovered very close over the camper. Within seconds, the camper began shaking violently. Objects fell off shelves, everything rattled and fell out of place. Then a fog seeped into the camper and made it difficult for the couple to accurately see everything around them. However, there was one thing that was piercing the fog: the light from this hovering craft. It got brighter and brighter until Steve and Dawn completely lost consciousness. I'll take a moment there. So what are your thoughts? What are you feeling?
Woo! That's terrifying. It reminds me of Hopkinsville.
Yeah, there's definitely like little guys
creatures
coming at you.
Gremlins. There's a gun involved.
No backflips yet.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're too powerful. They've gotten stronger.
So are these the tall, thin whites?
I think so. I think that's what that would be.
All I could think about but like translucent, but I could see that being.
It seems obviously they're controlling these little things as well. This is what I think would have happened to the people in Hopkinsville if they didn't fight back.
That's fair. Because it's true. 'Cause it's crazy that, like, they're projecting, like, don't shoot.
I know. I think that's obviously coming from the tall, thin whites.
There's something so scary about, like, this couple goes off the beaten path.
Yeah.
And these entities high enough in the sky to be mistaken for a star is able to detect them.
Yeah.
And then decide, like,
we got them.
But it's like they're so high. It just makes you feel so vulnerable. It's like the idea of like those sci-fi or action movies where like a satellite will pinpoint someone.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, it'll probably have the same technology as at least a satellite.
They got TomToms up there. It's just scary to think that like as soon as you step outside, like you're exposed.
Yeah.
You know, it's very creepy. The fact that you go off the beaten path and these things that high in the sky can pinpoint
you. Said they were drinking, right? You said they were drinking wine.
They had wine.
Yeah. So like my instinct would be to drive away, but if they're impaired,
they might not have cared at that point. Although I did watch this video about the Mojave Desert, and apparently there's like a lot of potholes everywhere. Like this guy, like the beginning of the video was like, "Don't drive drunk here." And he just like, he's like, this is why. He's like, see where there's a road and then just like this hole. And he like threw a rock down there and it just was like,
He's like, I know from experience, don't do it.
Yeah. So let's get back to Steve and Dawn. So when they woke up, they were still in the camper.
Okay.
It was morning. There was no sign of any spaceship. There was no red-eyed gremlins. There were no tall, translucent beings.
So what time did it start?
It was in the evening. Like they had a good time. Like it was nighttime. Like they were eating dinner, having wine. So my guess is and this is completely assumption, is that it's between the hours of 8 and 10.
Okay.
That would be my guess. It was dark out. They were looking at stars, and they were seeing constellations. So it was dark enough.
Maybe it was a little bit later than 2, if it was that dark.
This is October, too, so that it gets darker earlier. Like, October probably gets dark by, like, what, 6:30?
Sounds right.
But this is West Coast. Is that the same? Is that the same there?
Yeah.
Okay. My guess is it's between 8 and 10. That's my guess. But now it's morning, and I don't know what time it is in the morning. It's bright. The sun is out. And there's no signs of these entities. Steve hustled around the camper. He was hoping to find footprints, marks on the camper because they were banging it, a landing mark from this ship, anything he could grasp onto to prove that what they experienced the night before was real, besides each other. And after searching outside the camper, they searched inside. Objects were still falling down, which makes no sense. It was a mess, but it wasn't like, concrete. It was that's just what it was. They wanted something tangible. And then they searched themselves, and they did end up finding 2 red pinpricks on Dawn's neck. And she was very confident that they had not been there the day before. So they're trying to calm down. They're trying to talk things through. The descriptions match up perfectly with each other. Everything going up to the blinding white light, just to confirm, at least with each other, what they remember, what they witnessed. And after regrouping as much as they could, they decided to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair.
For sure.
And as many questions as they had, they weren't willing to wait around for another day to potentially find out. So they quickly packed up, got out of there as fast as they could, and drove home mostly in silence, trying to process what they'd been through. And they actually chose not to talk about the experience for a few days. I think it's like, not like energy of like the talk about it, you give it power, but almost like if you can repress it, if you don't talk about it, maybe it like didn't happen. But they're also going home to their kids and they don't want to tell their kids about it. The kids were probably curious whether.
It's definitely some kind of avoidance.
Yeah, it's just like, let's just not, why bring the memories back, right?
Yeah.
Why give it any time of day? If you just ignore it, it'll go away. But that's not what happened. Dawn and Steve ended up having horrific nightmares about their encounter. And not only that, they experienced physical symptoms. Like out of nowhere, they had really bad headaches. They got really nauseous. Paranoia started creeping in their mind because they're like, yeah, sure, we got away, but what really happened? What happened after we blacked out? What if these things were still watching them? Are they being stalked? Because these feelings of being watched started creeping on them. Like it became overwhelming. Like they really thought that these things could still be following them. Like they started hearing strange noises inside their house and outside their house. Needless to say, this was pretty hard to cope with. Although they did everything they could to put on this brave shield for their children, because other than the fact of having explained that they came home early, they didn't want their kids to know anything had happened. But this is really creepy. One day, Steve and Dawn were sitting down in their living room when one of their kids mentioned to them that they saw a little red-eyed monster prowling around the room at night.
No.
Dude, like that
no.
I do not like that. And this is, we just did the extraterrestrial encounters episode, like the listener submissions of those. Mm-hmm. And this, when I read that, it reminded me so hard about the guy that felt like they were like the doorknob rattling.
Yes.
It's bad enough to have an alien experience where you might have been abducted and maybe they did testing on you. That's bad enough. I don't like that. That's bad enough. The idea that like you're being haunted by it.
It came
like
back.
Not even memories. Like if it is still, they're still now.
Well, they haven't told the kids anything, right?
No.
So they don't know anything about this. They have no previous knowledge of this.
Unless like they said something accidentally, or they're talking in their sleep, or there's something subconscious, not subconscious like telepathic, but like they said something and the kid picked up on it, or they told the grandparents. Like, I don't know. Either way, I'm just going to assume that they didn't know. And this is just like, this is a whole nother layer of alien activity that, because it's not even the same location.
Right.
Like this is their home now. Like
that's scary.
It's a whole nother layer because of creepy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like the fact that you're being followed, stalked, hunted.
Oh, it's
watched.
like that scene from the Poltergeist. Like they're here.
Oof. So naturally, the kids being involved now, like Steve and Dawn were shocked and horrified. They felt helpless.
Yeah.
A few nights later, they're woken up, panicked because their son was screaming, like blood-curdling screams. And they rush in his room, and they found him suspended in the air, twirling in a circular motion.
Well,
like this is... like that is... like we're in haunting territory now.
Yeah.
On a different night, while preparing for bed, Dawn swears that unseen hands pushed and accosted her.
Oh, God.
So they felt desperate. Like,
who are you going to call? Like Ghostbusters? The police? Like, what do you do?
Well, at this point, they felt like knowledge was power.
Yeah.
They've been repressing what happened. They didn't want to think about it. So they decided that their only way to understand what was going on was to tackle it head on. And they reached out to a Dr. William Annixter, and they wanted to go under hypnosis so they could try and figure out what happened to them after the blinding light.
I don't know what else you could do.
No. Obviously, well, even though like that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fix everything that's happened, but at least it's going to give you more of an understanding of the situation.
Yeah, and how much danger you're actually in.
Yeah. So they were naturally afraid of unearthing any traumatic memories that their subconscious had buried, but really at this point there was no other option. So after a series of sessions, Dr. Annixter was able to uncover what had happened during their lost time after the bright hovering light. According to Steve and Dawn, they had been brought aboard a massive craft of some kind and subjected to a battery of medical experiments and tests, many of which were painful, and one of which left those red marks on Dawn's neck. At several points during the hypnosis sessions, Dawn was seen to speak in a voice that was not her own, as if she was channeling an outside force. And on one of these occasions, she allegedly and very cryptically said, quote, "I know where the universe ends. Our universe ends when its matter stops mattering to us and starts mattering to them." Unquote. So that is the end of the Mojave incident.
I don't like that. That gave me a lot of chills, honestly, right now.
I had this, like, I've never had a vulnerable, like, I was laying in bed after researching this, and I just had that feeling of like I could get got, you know, just like, and it's like, but like very rationally, I'm like, no, I'm like, I mean, I could, but like it, like very, there's no reason.
I'm sure because they would get clear first.
Because I read this story has no connection to whatever might happen to me, you know.
Yeah,
it's true. It's like when you watch a scary movie, you don't want your foot dangling off because now it's in your mind.
Yeah.
So, but it just like that's like there are so many elements to the story that did really, really freak me out, and I hope they got peace. I don't know where.
We don't know anything else.
There was a book that was written about them. It's called Searchers: The True Story by Ron Felber. He had interviews with them and discussions, and he helped write it. I didn't have time to read it, but actually, like I have it on a digital library, and I got it like queued up because I do want to learn more about it. But that is like. Dude, like I gotta be honest. The twirling kid kind of feels like jumping the shark a little. I mean, if it's true, that it's terrifying.
Yeah,
and I don't want to act like I don't find it true or like I'm already questioning it, but just like it's so scary.
That is, I mean, it seems to me that it's this power continuing to show them that they are just insignificant to them.
But it seems so unnecessary. It seems so unnecessary.
These do not seem like benevolent entities.
It doesn't?
No. Benevolence? No.
Man, it's creepy. It's creepy. So this is what I got. So that's the end of the main story. But I wanted to find a little bit more stuff UFO related about the Mojave Desert.
Okay.
So we're going to get into that.
Cool.
Charlie, how have your holidays been?
They've been really good, but I've been super busy. Shopping, getting the house ready for family. I'm just thankful we have factory meals.
Yeah, that's right. With factory meals, you can cross meal prepping off your list this holiday season. Skip the meal planning, grocery shopping, chopping, prepping, and cleaning up, and get Factor's fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your door.
They're ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy.
I do be enjoying. Charlie, what factory meal have you had recently?
I recently had the creamy Parmesan chicken. It was delicious with great cheese sauce and chicken that was super juicy.
Dude, listen, I had their caramelized onion and goat cheese risotto. I don't know how you feel about goat cheese.
Oh, yeah.
But it was phenomenal. Like, lick the bottom of the container worthy. Not that I did, of course.
Of course. So choose Factor Meals and enjoy eating well without the hassle.
Head to factormeals.com/bizarre50 and use code bizarre50 to get what? 50% off.
That's code bizarre50 at factormeals.com/bizarre50 to get 50% off.
Charlie, have you ever heard of the Integratron?
I don't think I have. That sounds like a cousin of Megatron who's not doing real well. Integratron, how are you doing?
Just chilling in the desert.
I'm having a hard time getting up. So what's going on with the Integratron?
All right, so here's an article from the website, Integratron's website. The Integratron, circa 1954, is located in Landers, California, 20 miles north of Joshua Tree National Park and 90 miles southwest of the Mojave Desert. Its creator, George Van Tassel, claimed that the structure is based on the design of Moses' tabernacle, the writing of Nikola Tesla, and telepathic directions from extraterrestrials.
Oh.
This one-of-a-kind, 38-foot-high, 55-foot diameter, all-wood dome was designed to be an electrostatic generator for the purpose of rejuvenation and time travel. The location of the Integratron is an essential part of its functioning. It was built on an intersection of powerful geomagnetic forces that, when focused by the unique geometry of the building, concentrate and amplify the Earth's magnetic field. Magnometers read a significant spike in the Earth's magnetic field in the center of the Integratron. It is privately owned by three sisters who have been part of the restoration and maintenance of the structure and have been owning it for 30 years.
That is interesting.
Their focus is to restore and preserve the structure while sharing its amazing acoustical properties with the world via the Integratron sound bath. Which is why I asked about the
sound bath.
Yeah, it's been listed as in 2019 on the National Register of Historic Places by the National Park Services.
Man, I don't even take water baths.
You said you don't?
I take showers.
Okay, I understand. Well, you could probably consider it a sound shower.
Okay.
So here's an article from The Sun, and here's a quote from that. The Integratron story begins when Van Tassel moved to the Integratron site in 1947. After years of meditating under a nearby boulder known as Giant Rock, Van Tassel claimed...
Very creative name.
Van Tassel claimed to have been contacted by a Venetian from Venus called Salganda.
Okay.
And Van Tassel's account, as recorded on the Integratron's website, is as follows. I asked the man what he wanted, thinking his car might have given him trouble, and he walked into a remote field as many others have done. At the same time, I sat up in bed. Beyond the man, about 100 yards away, hovered a glittering, glowing ship around 8 feet off the ground. The man said, "My name is Salganda, and I would be pleased to show you our craft."
Can you help me change my tire?
My oil's out. Van Tassel, who in addition to building the Integratron and in hosting UFO conventions, founded an organization called the Ministry of Universal Wisdom, reported his close encounter occurred on August 24th, 1953, around 2 a.m. He began construction of the Integratron in 1957. The two-story domed structure resembled an observatory without a telescope. He died, or in the words used of the Integratron, had a short circuit in 1978.
I feel that emotionally.
So the idea of it was sound baths, and sound baths are held in the building's upper chamber, which was open to the public. Sound bathers enter the Integratron from the building's first floor, which is a single circular room, and aside from the historical exhibits on the wall, resembles a pretty normal living room. From the first floor, the guests remove their shoes and take turns climbing a staircase to the second floor and find spots to lay down on blankets. Laying on their back, they can stare up at the building's central ring, which in the Integratron's spacey context can be imagined to be a device that emits a teleporter beam.
This sounds like a very good camp activity.
Yeah, team building.
Yeah.
One participant, Terry Kuwano, 52, of Rolling Hills Estates, compared her minutes spent in the sound bath to, quote, heaven on earth.
Interesting.
The sound chamber has its own multicultural shrine for visitors who have felt as if the sound bath has been a particularly profound experience. Here's a description of the sound bath from the website. This is an unforgettable sound experience for those who seek deep relaxation, rejuvenation, and introspection. All sound baths are 60-minute sonic healing sessions that consist of 1. A brief introduction to the Integratron and its history, 2. 30 to 45 minutes of 22 quartz crystals singing bowls played live, and 3. The balance of the hour to integrate the sound and relax in the sound chamber to ambient music.
That's actually very cool.
Yeah. You'll be resting comfortably in the deeply resonant multi-wave sound chamber while a sequence of quartz crystal singing bowls are played. Each bowl is keyed to the energy centers or chakras of the body, where sound is nutrition for the nervous system. The results are waves of peace, heightened awareness, and relaxation of the body and the mind.
Shit, sign me up, dude. I'm going to go. I'm down.
Let's go, man. When we go to Joshua Tree, when we go to Mojave Desert.
I'd give it a shot.
Obviously I included that because the reason it was created was because this dude claimed he talked to an alien from Venus.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, magnetic, I'm not going to go deep into this, but just trust me, bro. Where you're standing, it's pretty powerful.
Who's the guy that built it? What's his first name?
George Van Tassel.
He's building this like frantically, like the Hound in season 6 of Game of Thrones, building this church. And they're like, George, are you good? And he's like, the aliens told me to build it. And I'm kind of into it.
He's like, get the Bluetooth speakers.
Have you ever heard a singing
surround sound? Yes. Not
neat.
Live, but yeah.
My friend has one. My friend Shantae has one.
They play it?
They did for me. I actually got to do it too. It was really cool.
You
spin it? Yeah. It was neat.
That's very cool. That's very. Was it out of body?
No, we just played around with it for a minute, but I would do a meditation with those. That'd be pretty cool.
Is she an alien? All right, so let's move on to something a little more traditional. This is the David Hastings UFO Encounter. So this is from HuffPost. David Hastings was a British pilot who flew and I have no idea what this is, a Cessna Spymaster plane.
It sounds like something to do with spies.
It sounds like a RC, like it has a remote control.
Yeah, it does.
Daddy, I want the Spymaster for Christmas.
It does. It sounds like a Nerf.
Was it like a little mouse or rat? It was like the logo of a it was like RC, Tyc.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's a whole brand. I don't know if it's real anymore.
I think you're right. I don't know.
Anyway, he flew over the Mojave Desert September 9th, 1985. Here's a quote from David. Quote, we were sitting there enjoying the sunshine, probably blinded.
Yeah.
When we both suddenly saw this speck on the horizon at our 12 o'clock position. This speck grew extremely quickly until we saw this huge shadow go over the top of us. But the most amazing thing about it was there was no noise and there was no movement or no turbulence at all. We looked at each other, his co-pilot, and said, what the hell was that? At this point, they felt something was flying in the air to the left side of the plane, but they couldn't see anything. They literally could see nothing. But they felt like it was there, and they saw the shadow. So Hastings walked to the back of the plane, grabbed his camera, and he returned to the cockpit. He quickly snapped 2 photos out of the window. He still couldn't see anything with his eyes. All he saw was the left wing of the plane and the ground below, but he still felt like something was there, so he justified taking the photos. And again, This is the 80s. So he's not reviewing the photo and posting it to Instagram with the hashtag UFO Encounter.
Yeah.
Like this is...
He's got to get that developed.
He probably went to Walgreens. I don't know.
He's got to get that stuff developed. That's filmed.
$7 candy bar. I don't know.
That's only a couple years before the first encounter. Because I was 85. The first one was 89.
Yeah. So this is around the same time. This is the 80s.
Yeah.
But they landed in San Francisco, and he got the photos developed. Here's another quote.
The guy at Walmart was like, this is crazy.
He's like, can't hold on to this. Here's a quote. One picture showed what we expected to see. The aircraft, wing, and the ground. That was it. But in the second one, there was this cigar-shaped thing. We were both convinced that it was not a man-made object. Several pilots have seen UFOs in England, so it doesn't surprise me. But I was surprised that we actually got a picture of it. Would you want to see the photo, Charlie?
Hell yeah. That is surprising. What the fuck is that?
It's a cigar-shaped thing.
That's crazy.
Words. It's crazy that they didn't see that with their eyes.
That's
like he thought
insane.
all he saw was the wing and the ground. He did not see that in the camera lens or just with the naked eye.
That's a fucking spaceship.
This is the 80s. The aliens are like, there's no way they can see us. We have our cloak on.
That's a spaceship for sure.
There's no way a Nikon, a Nokia, or a Sony. No, what's the Canon camera. He also talked a little bit about why I didn't write this in here. This is just me remembering the article. He went on to say a little bit why pilots don't mention this more. He kind of was like, yeah, pilots see shit, but we have careers and we also represent the companies that we work for.
Mm-hmm.
And if me on my own, like you can, like in Twitter, people sometimes put in their bios, he's not saying this, but like in their bios, it'd be like, opinions are my own.
Yeah.
But if somebody for...
Like American Airlines.
American Airlines says they saw UFO. American Airlines is going to get questioned about it.
Yeah.
So I think for the sake of their companies and themselves, they really choose not to say anything.
I 100% buy that. Have you ever seen like the website?
UFO?
No. The website where there's like, where you can see like where planes are in the sky.
Yes.
Covered.
Yeah, it's really hard. Aliens are like playing Frogger up there in the sky. They're like, "What the f- are we supposed to?" I'm just trying to get this couple out in the desert. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm going back to Venus. This is too hard. Just gas over there.
That's interesting.
Is it gas?
It's a rock.
Is it rock? Venus? It's hot though.
Yeah, because there's
What's
Mercury,
the second one?
Mercury, Venus, Earth. Earth's the third rock from the sun. The Mars.
Yeah.
It is very hot there. It rains molten iron. I feel like I've said that fact before.
So. What doesn't like iron?
What?
What supernatural stuff doesn't like iron?
Ghosts.
Just ghosts?
Ghosts. I think most things don't like iron.
So it's safe to say that Venus is not haunted.
Venus is not haunted. That's a fact. You can mark that one down.
Okay, believable. All right. So let's go to another encounter that happened in 2021. This is the Mojave Triangle UAP. I don't have a photo on my phone, but I'll show you sometime.
Okay.
Just imagine like a triangle.
Okay.
Anyways, here's a quote from the Black Vault, which is the source. Quote, on May 23rd, 2023, investigative journalists Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp released exclusive footage of a UFO dubbed the Mojave Triangle UAP, hovering over the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center in 29 Palms, California. The event, which took place on April 20th, 2021, between 8:20 to 9:30 p.m., is labeled by Corbell as a mass UFO sighting and is said to have over 50 eyewitnesses. The object captured on iPhones and infrared is described as a silent, triangular-shaped craft estimated to be between half the size of what? Oh yeah, they use our measurement systems here at BTB. A football field in a 3-bedroom, 2-story house.
Shit, that's
3-bedroom.
That's giant.
They didn't give us the layout like all of our listeners give us, but
right.
You can just assume what the bedrooms might look like.
Mm-hmm. It's a bedroom.
So following the sighting, Corbell stated that there was a significant air and ground response, which he further claimed was a search and reconnaissance effort related to the UAP event, lasting approximately 3 hours. So there's these lights in the sky over this base. The base reacts to it, and also people see it, up to 50 eyewitnesses, just to kind of summarize. Given the location of this sighting within the restricted airspace of an active U.S. military installation, it's believed by Corbell that a significant amount of data, including radar, thermal, electro-optical, and signature intelligence were accumulated. However, later the same morning that the footage appeared online, It was acknowledged that there was a weapons and tactics instructor course underway at the same location. This course involved the deployment of numerous aircraft and ground troops during a 7-week training exercise. So here's a quote from the Pentagon about this sighting. Quote, I can confirm that there were military aviation assets in the 29 Palms, California airspace, and a weapons and tactics instructor course was being conducted at the time. There's no record of communication with the base range control concerning a UAP sighting, nor of the allocation of any base resources to investigate UAP sighting. So essentially, they're saying it was us, it was a test. That's what you guys saw.
No, that's a spaceship.
I think there's a chance that here. Let me find it. All right, I just showed Charlie the
and the government's
formation.
like, we're Weenie Hud Jr. That's definitely not an alien, but we know that's an alien.
They wish they could make those.
It reminds me of the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, I could see
It's
that.
in a similar area too.
All right, so I got one more Reddit encounter about Mojave Desert
Lovely.
UFO experience, and then we can discuss what happened to our good friends Dawn and Steve. So here's a quote from Reddit. The Reddit user is EmbarrassServe90,
Okay.
and his title was My Close Encounter in the Mojave Desert. Quote, it's the summer of 2000, and I'm on my way to Vegas to visit friends for the weekend. I was living in San Diego at the time, but rather than take 15 the whole way, I wanted to break up the drive. So instead went from San Diego to 29 Palms to have lunch at my favorite pizza place from when I was younger. And then from there, I took the way back to Vegas, which takes you through Amboy and also the Mojave National Preserve, which is where my encounter took place. I don't remember exactly what time it was, probably sometime between 5 and 6:30. The sun was starting to set, but it was still more daylight than not, but also dark enough that lights from the craft were brighter than they would have been 20 minutes earlier. I was speeding along, going easily over 70 miles per hour, and suddenly my car fills with the swirling blue and red lights that are bouncing off every mirror.
Oh.
So I assume I'm about to be pulled over for speeding. But when I look in my rearview mirror, there's no cop car. Actually, there's no one behind me. So I look to my side window thinking the cop's passing me or something on my side, but again, nothing. But the lights haven't stopped. Absolutely confused at this point, I look behind me to confirm whether my eyes are deceiving me, but again, nothing, and the lights are still going. When I turn my head back around with my eyes on the road is when I see, off to the left, hovering maybe 20 to 30 feet off the ground, with lights swirling all around it. This craft. One of the main things that stuck out during the experience and has always stayed with me was that the craft didn't look steady. It seemed to be rocking back and forth to one side as if it couldn't keep its balance. The left lane and just a bit of desert was all that was between us. But to be clear, this wasn't me seeing a light or something in the sky that might be a UFO. This was literally a UFO up close in front of my eyes. Full stop. Now, I'm not a ufologist and don't have the vocabulary to properly describe the craft or its parts, so please forgive me. But it was a saucer with a wide panel wrapped around the side, with lights either in the panel or on the edges. That part I don't remember clearly. And then there were top and bottom parts in the middle, and each of those seemed to be about the same size. All in all, I'd say the saucer was about as wide as a semi-truck trailer is long, and then from top to bottom of the middle parts, about as tall as a one-story house. As I'm driving by and witnessing this, I'm in a complete state of shock. I don't remember if I even attempted to slow down or if I just hit the gas, but all I could keep thinking and repeating to myself was, what the hell is happening? What the hell is happening? Why am I seeing this? And I wanted the moment to pass by as quickly as possible. Passing by and staring at it while I was in shock, I thought I was witnessing one of two things. A secret military project that went off course, and I absolutely should not be seeing this, and if I don't get away as quickly as possible, I'm going to be visited by people in suits who will ruin my life and paint me as crazy, or who knows what else, depending on what I saw. 2, I just saw an actual alien UFO, in which case I need to get away from them as quickly as possible because I was alone in the middle of the desert and could have easily been abducted and disappeared. And then they'd put me back and I'd be visited by people who try to paint me crazy, and I'd be traumatized twice. So no, I didn't try to stop and make contact with it. I kept staring at it as long as I could, and then through the rearview mirror until it was at a distance. But no way was I going to get myself any further involved in the situation. So I wouldn't say I was scared by the experience, but more shocked as it radically shifts your idea of what reality is. Imagine that you suddenly came across a live dragon. It's so far of your expectations that the only reaction can be shock, as the experience is changing the way you view the world. You'd think that after the experience, I would have immediately jumped down the UFO rabbit hole. But no, actually, if anything, I tried to repress it and never think about it again. But eventually, as more UFO files started coming out, I started going down the rabbit hole, and now the experience is something that I think about every single day. Looking back at it, there are two things that really stood out. One being the unsteadiness of the craft, which is why at the time, part of me wanted to believe that it was military. I thought aliens honestly be better than that. And the other thing is the lights. For me, the craziest part about the lights was that, at least for the beginning of my experience, they almost seemed to be detached from the craft itself.
Huh.
Unquote.
I thought he was getting pulled over. No, he was getting pulled over by intergalactic police.
I know. The other men in black.
Yeah.
Not the men in blue, the men in black.
Very interesting. What an experience.
It's funny because that's kind of like, I feel like that's in similar ways where I'd be like, man, either this is, I shouldn't be seeing this and I'm gonna be screwed, or it's an alien and I still am not supposed to be seeing this and I'm gonna be screwed.
Very interesting.
So that is our episode on Mojave Desert and its UFO encounters. Let's get to the discussion. All right, before we get to the discussion, we would like to stop the episode and thank our newest patrons who, as of the recording of this podcast about the Mojave Desert and aliens, is Danielle, Rayu, Alex, Lewis, and Xander. Thank you so much for joining our Patreon, supporting the podcast. It means a lot to both of us. And just to very lightly discuss what all the good stuff is in our Patreon, Charlie, what's one thing you would like to highlight?
Yeah,
it better not be the same as mine.
I don't think it will be. I'm pretty sure it's going to be different. So something I want to discuss is, something I want to highlight really quickly is, we take a monthly poll, typically, and we watch a movie on Netflix.
Yes, we do.
Is it the same thing?
It is.
No way!
And
what are the odds of that?
Yeah, it's in my notes. And the great thing about it is that it's multifaceted. We can bounce this one.
That's fantastic.
There's the poll aspect of it.
Yeah, which I love the interactions.
And then we use teleparty, so we get to chat with other people. Like, it's not like
it is such a fun time.
It's simultaneous. It's like the screen's up. It has to be a computer, unfortunately. They're not smart enough to find out a way to make it work on your phone. But on laptop, you're watching the movie at the same time with everyone else, and there's a little chat section on the right, like Yahoo Messenger from 2008, and you're chatting, and it's fun. And I also want to I'll let you...
I'll say, full of transparency, I think that we are hysterical. But we're not the only ones who are funny. I think I have such a fun time in that chat. It's so funny.
It's good because horror genre in general is easy to rip apart. Yeah. Even a great horror movie always has moments of like, why did this guy do that? Or like, like when oh, that guy's donezo. Everyone jumps in on it and like, oh, why did he do this? Or he should have that. Or, oh, I hate this character. I hope he gets got. Or,
It's such a fun, it makes it a lot more fun for me.
I also want to shout out Bethany because very uniquely, she creates a movie cocktail that goes along with the theme of every movie we watch, which means not only does she have to make the cocktail and think it up, she also has to actively pay attention to which movie's winning the poll.
Yeah.
Because you can't make a cocktail about this movie and we're watching that movie.
It's like, I guess we're still drinking this one.
So shout out Bethany. Shout out everybody who's been joining us on these films. It's been a lot of the same people, and we appreciate you, and we truly look forward to it. Great choice on what you want to highlight. This is the first time that's ever happened.
That's insane.
That's the first time that's ever happened, and that's awesome. We'll talk about more about that later, but I want to hear Charlie's thoughts on this UFO story. All right, Charlie, I want to focus the majority of the discussion here on Steve and Dawn's experience.
That's fair, but the rest of it is relevant.
Well, we can quickly touch on that.
Okay.
We got the gentleman who flew by the UFO from Reddit and had the lights swirling in his car.
Yeah.
And we had the sighting in 2021 over an Air Force base where a bunch of people saw, and government in the air base claimed that they were doing testing.
That's bullshit.
And then there's the 1985 one where the dude took a photo and brought it to Walgreens and got it developed, and there was a spaceship there.
Yeah.
There's not much really to say about the Integratron. It just kind of... If you want to say whether or not he talked to an alien and they told him what to do, I think I'll let him have that W. We'll save we'll save that fight. Sometimes, you just got to know when not to fight.
You got to know when to hold them.
That's the one where I'm just going to be like, I'll let him have it.
Yeah.
There's other fish to fry. And then there's Steve and Dawn's. So
it seems to me that this area has an affinity for alien activity.
Well, this is the Southwest, man.
Yes.
That's where it is.
And it sounds very similar. Dawn and Steve's situation sounds very similar to the Kelly Hopkinsville and also other alien Asian situations as well. I think they maybe had one of the more intense situations happen.
It seemed like, I don't want to say violent, even though when they went through hypnosis, they seemed to think that there was painful.
No, it does seem violent.
But it seems like so aggressive to this random couple in the middle of nowhere.
Travis Walton's experience was not like this. That experience almost seemed to happen by accident. He got hurt and blacked out.
And he saw it, though. Like, the ship was there, and they approached it.
Yes.
Like, this is a couple.
They came to them.
Yeah, they're like, oh, look at these guys.
They're like, it was like Deliverance, and this was the scene with the...
They're like, you want to around with some humans?
Ding, 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 ding. And they did, and they got him. And I'm glad they went their memory.
Them.
Yeah.
And then followed them. Like, in their families?
Yeah.
Like,
it reminds me a little bit of... It also reminds me of the Betty Barney Hill situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just...
But it really reminds me of that extraterrestrial encounter story we did, the scary one where the guy was like, I think they're following me home.
Yes.
I hear my doorknob rattling. I hear knocking.
And that gives him more credence. And the both situations give each other more credibility.
Now, is there any chance... It's the 80s. I mean, it would happen now, too. Is there any chance that it wasn't just wine that they were consuming? Maybe there was some extracurricular activities that they were taking, and it gave them a far-out experience, and which led to paranoia.
I think there's a limit that those types of things, right, whether it be cannabis or mushrooms, anything like that, or even LSD, can push you to. I think there's a reality to some extent.
You don't think there's any chance this could have been a bad trip? Completely?
No. I don't think there's any chance that the whole situation could have been a bad trip. I don't think so.
My only, and I'm not saying I believe this, is just the argument for the sake of arguing it. The idea that they took something, had the experiences, don't know whether or not to attribute it to drugs or not, and that has led to paranoia, which they took home.
It's also not, I'm going to say it's not fair, really, because they didn't report it. I mean, now I know there's good reason to not report it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go off their word here. I don't think they did.
The hardest part for me to understand is unless it's like, you know how like when we take an animal like from the sea and we tag it and then we let it out at sea and we like keep up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that there's like that mindset where it's like the aliens took these two up and they want to keep tabs on them. Like I get that aspect of it, but I have such a hard time trying to comprehend why these aliens would still be messing with them at home.
I don't know if that's, I'm going to say two things. I don't know if that's something we can comprehend, right?
That's fair.
It's
that's
alien.
Fair.
And also they could be feeding off other things besides science. Maybe this is how they get some kind of nourishment, by feeding off the fear of humans.
That's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
I'm just trying to think of like if there was no alien encounter, what could be causing this? And my scenario would be drugs followed by paranoia, which is why it left the desert and is still with them wherever they live, is because it didn't actually happen. It's in their head and they're feeding off each other. Okay, question. What did the kid see? Well, they would have said something around the kids.
Okay, so in that scenario, they said something to the kids.
Yes. I don't think they'd be like, we saw this in the desert.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean kids. I mean, kids creep. They listen. They hear. Like they could be having a discussion at the table. It's kind of rooted in the fact that they're not as secure about what happened as they think they are. Like everything about it is kind of like they operate with a little bit of an altered and a looser state of things. I'm not saying I believe that. I just think if this isn't an alien encounter, how can you possibly explain what happened to them? I think that is the only thing I can come up with. Unless, it wouldn't be like a military thing. Like it'd have to be.
That would be the only thing it could be, I think. Unless it was like military.
Yeah.
But why would they leave them there?
It's like, I don't want to believe that it's a lie. Like everything we do on the podcast, even if we go unbelievable, we don't really think people are lying. It's more so just like the idea of it. It's an urban legend, right? Like that's my way of saying it's not a lie, but it wasn't also paranormal. I have no problem believing that their encounter is alien. I'm still not stumped. It just feels so, the fact that these aliens would follow and haunt them in their houses and make the kid twirl. It went from like a random event in the middle of this desert that could have happened to anyone to now these aliens are stalking them in their homes. Like it seemed, but then it, like going back to it, it's like, well, they are now their test subjects.
Yeah.
But it's like there's some alien encounters we've talked about where it's kind of like, oh, I saw this UFO and it was crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, that'd be awesome.
These aliens have Dawn and Steve like on their phone. They're tracking them right now.
They're Neopets.
Like, oh, they're at their home right now. Oh, one's at work, one's at the store.
Steve is famished.
Yeah.
It's very, very scary. Did you have any other thoughts on the pilots? I think one of them could have been a military test.
You talking about that triangle?
Yeah,
that's some bullshit. That's a spaceship. I am convinced that's a spaceship. If I'm going to say that one of them seemed less convincing, it was the one from '85, just because it was like kind of see-through a little bit.
I think it's crazy that they felt there was something there.
Yeah,
didn't see it, felt compelled enough to take a photo, and then it would like that's. Could you, if you were in that situation, right? Mm-hmm. You think something's there, you're like, okay, I'm going to take this picture. It's probably nothing, and then when you see it develop, it's just like, oh shit, that thing was up there with me. Like this happened. That's crazy. I'm not saying I don't think the triangle one could have been, but it is courageous of these. It's bold of these aliens to be flying over a military base.
But that's what they want to see, though, right? They want to see what kind of response that would elicit from the military. They're poking the fucking bear.
Dude, let me say, you are on your ufologist A game tonight. I give you an A++.
Thank you.
You should be wearing a suit right now. You are on go take the LSAT tonight. Like your defense for aliens tonight and your conviction, I love it.
Thank you.
And I'm not opposing you. I'm being the devil's advocate.
I got you.
Because I'm going viable. I'm going viable. I think there could have been more than wine involved, and the floating kid in a circular. It feels so extreme.
That is the hardest thing to defend.
The kid in a circle.
But I do see that being as some kind of just extreme fear tactic.
That is some.
There's also the
dark
idea,
skies, the fourth kind shit.
Yes, it is. There's also the idea that aliens are almost in the same realm as ghosts. It's all the same thing.
Interdimensional.
Yeah. And it just became ghosts instead of aliens.
I think part of why I don't want it to be real is because it's too scary. Like demons, hauntings, poltergeists, like I those are in a different box.
Yeah.
Like it's like I tipped over one box accidentally and my alien box fell into my haunting. Because it's like...
Got my Reese's in chocolate.
In my mind, it's like you have this alien experience and then you leave and they leave. And it's like that happened there. And even if I go back there, it's so unlikely that I would see an alien again. And then for it to turn into like a haunted home because of these aliens, the amount of vulnerability, because even a home haunting, like like demonic, it's more about the people are possessed than the places. But hauntings, typically it's the place. And you could leave the place and you're good. But imagine in this scenario with aliens, outside you're vulnerable, in your house you're vulnerable. If these things are in the sky,
it's like we're safe.
We're safe.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying.
And I'm also going viable.
Not believable?
Not believable. I go viable.
Suit's off. Like your Krampus suit, you're off. But
yeah.
I appreciate that. So that is our episode on the Mojave UFO Incident.
What a story.
Great story. Creepy, unique alien experience, but does not make me not want to go there.
No, absolutely
Joshua
not.
Tree, LA, Mojave Desert. It is happening in the next few years.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please go to Apple and leave a 5-star review and a review on the episode, on the series, and just say something kind, hopefully.
And if you liked this specific episode and you listen on Spotify, you can comment on this specific episode. Let us know what you think. And you can comment on other episodes as well.
Yeah.
Somebody just recently commented that there's a lot of stuff that happens in Missouri and that St. Louis is very large and that it's better than anything in Ohio. And I have nothing to say to that.
Interesting.
Yeah. But we appreciate you. We appreciate the feedback we get. We hope you like this. If you're caught up on the podcast, you want a little bit more, we got Patreon, 4 different tiers, a bunch of stuff out there. Reminder, the enamel pin ends this year. Literally, if you join the not tier at 11:58 p.m. of this year, January or December 31st, you still get the pin. Like, it'll take a little while to get to you because shipping and all that stuff, and still non-USA people, we're waiting on a new shipment of pins. You will get them. Everyone who has ever been in the not tier this year is guaranteed to get one, even if it is a little delayed. But then you also you don't have to do anything else. Like, you automatically get the 2024 not tier pin too, which is being designed.
And you can start your BTB collection.
Yeah, you can get one of those pin boards.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do one of those eventually.
That'd be kind of cool.
That should be really cool.
Yeah.
But thank you for everybody listening again. Happy holidays to everyone. New Year's coming up. It is the end of 2023 for BTB.
Goodbye.
And who knows? Maybe there'll be some new things in 2024. Maybe there'll be, maybe new Patreon music.
A lot of new stuff is going to change in 2024.
Yeah. But we'll still be here. Hopefully. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next year on Believing the Bizarre.
A podcast as bizarre as you are.